Point number one. A society based on contractual ties. When society is organized in this way, social cooperation rests on contracts. This is precisely why Mises refers to a society based on contractual bonds. Cooperation takes place by virtue of contract. The contract is a legal institution which embodies precisely a voluntary exchange. I give you something in exchange for your giving me something. In contrast, point number one on the right side of the table, a society based on hegemonic ties is organized by virtue of command and subordination. Command and subordination. Note the difference. A contract embodies a voluntary exchange, regardless of the subjective motivations the parties may have or how desperate they may feel. In voluntary exchanges, what matters is that there be no physical violence nor a threat of physical violence. On the other hand, in societies based on hegemonic ties, contracts do not predominate. Instead, command and subordination predominate. In other words, you, do this. Yes, sir. And if you don't do it, you're placed under arrest or shot. Command. I command you and you obey. That is not a contract. That is precisely the way coercion manifests itself in the social process. Point number two. Therefore, in societies based on contractual ties, relationships between human beings are symmetrical. What does it mean to say they are symmetrical? It means that exchanges take place between two parties without either party being able to coerce the other. Be careful. I'm going to give you an example to better illustrate my point, to make it clear, so you're not taken aback. If a capitalist tycoon hires a very needy worker for extremely low wages, a symmetrical exchange has occurred. I'm going to approach it from that angle. Both a contractual tie and symmetry exist. Symmetry is lacking if workers become picketers and organize a violent strike. Then they use or threaten physical violence to obtain higher wages than their employers were willing to pay them voluntarily. The picketers also beat up strikebreakers, people who would be willing to work for those wages, or they occupy the factory, or they occupy or set fire to the streets. There, the physical violence is quite clear. So there is symmetry in a contract. Both parties are on the same level in the exchange, while, point number two on the right, in a society based on hegemonic ties, relationships are asymmetrical. What does that mean? It means the parties are on different levels. Some people command and others obey. Some people give orders, and others are obliged to follow them. Slavery is the crystal clear example. The master orders the slave to do something, and the slave says, "Yes, master," because, among other reasons, if he doesn't say, "Yes, master," and do what the master says, he gets 100 lashes. A perfectly clear example of slavery is the army, compulsory military service. If soldiers are there voluntarily, nothing can be said, as long as they enlist for a specific period of time and they can get out. But if military service is compulsory, it is complete slavery. In fact, we had slavery in Spain even in the 20th century, until relatively recently, when voluntary military service was established. Point number three. In a society based on contractual ties, each human being pursues his or her own ends. I make voluntary exchanges with other people because I believe I achieve my ends better that way. But the ends each person strives to accomplish are his or her own, whatever they may be. As you know, ends are determined by each acting subject. However, point number three on the right, in a society based on hegemonic ties, people do not pursue their own ends, but the ends of the one who commands. In other words, the person who uses coercion, gives orders and commands others, imposes his or her own ends on other people, and the subordinates who must obey those commands are at the service not of their own ends, but of the ends of the one in charge. This is very important. Point number four. We say that in a society based on contractual ties, wealth is acquired by economic means. I repeat, in a society based on contractual ties, wealth is acquired by economic means. What do we understand by the term economic means? The means which are the focus of catalaxy, the general science of exchange. In fact, all economic theory, to which we are devoting this course, focuses on studying this process of voluntary exchange. Meanwhile, in a society based on hegemonic ties, wealth is acquired by political means. Write that down. Note the contrast. Economic means and political means. A society based on coercion is a politicized society in which there are more and more civil servants, more and more bureaucrats. An increasing amount of time, ingenuity and effort is spent not on trying to detect the needs of our fellow human beings and satisfy them through a voluntary process, but on influencing the political decision-making process, obtaining aid and subsidies and staging demonstrations. 100,000 farmers paralyzed Madrid. Why? Were any of these farmers shouting, "We want to satisfy the desires of consumers? We're taking to the streets because we want to find products that are more and more affordable and of higher and higher quality? Our goal in life is to meet the needs of others?" No, of course not. They took to the streets to say, "We want more subsidies. We want more bonuses. We want more." And where is the money supposed to come from? From the national budget. And tomorrow, air traffic controllers will be making the same demands. The day after tomorrow, miners. The next day, the banking sector. In a society based on hegemonic ties, all people try to solve their problems by political means, and they forget about economic means, which consist simply of a day-to-day effort well made, by the sweat of the brow, to serve others. Such is the spontaneous market order. Such is the capitalist system. It is the system of peaceful exchange. In contrast lies the politicized society based on hegemonic ties, in which everyone runs to Papa State to try to gain special privileges and advantages over others. The political versus the economic. If you travel, you will notice that the most politicized societies are the most coercive, and vice versa. The least politicized are the least coercive. In Switzerland, for instance, the political news takes much less time to report on TV than it does in Spain. And sometimes people on the street, even educated people, are asked who the president of the Swiss Confederation is, who the members of the Federal Council are, and they don't know. They don't care. It's not vital to them. The state wields much less influence there than it does in Spain. However, in Spain, it is really vital to know who is in power, because almost everyone, one way or another, is affected by subsidies. Students are the first to benefit from them. Students pay an absurdly low percentage of the actual cost of studying at a university. There we see hegemonic ties. Other people are coerced, forced to pay taxes to support you in your idleness. And if they don't pay taxes, they go to jail. And if they try to escape, they can be shot. Hegemonic ties, command and control, versus contractual ties. The search for wealth by economic means versus the search for wealth by political means. What do political means amount to? The use of violence. That's it. Politics is a euphemism for force, for violence, for the use of coercion. In this case, institutional coercion applied by the state. We'll be talking more about that in the future.